All right, if you have ever sold your home before in Hawaii, you have heard of HARPTA and FIRPTA, which are not words from Dr. Seuss. These are real things here in Hawaii, and I'm going to break it down for you. If you're a first-time home seller and you've never heard of these words before, it's important that you at least get a concept of it and it doesn't hit you by surprise when you go to sign your documents at closing. So let's break it down. What is HARPTA specifically, and what is FIRPTA, and why do you need to know about it? Is it something to fear? All of that stuff. Let's just kind of dive into the video and I'm going to break it down. All right, so HARPTA is the Hawaii Real Property Tax Act. It's a big fancy acronym, and it simply means it's a withholding. It's not a tax, okay? You're not being penalized for anything. It's simply a withholding of 7.25 of the gross sales price on your property. So if you're selling a property for $1 million, then there's a withholding, meaning the title company is gonna keep 7.25% of the gross sales price, which is a sticker shock for a lot of people. And when you see it on the net sheet, a lot of people try to panic and they start to freak out. And it's just a matter of filling out a couple paperwork forms to make sure that gets released back to you on a couple of terms. But we're gonna talk about that, right? So that's for non-resident sellers. That's the biggest thing here. If you are owner occupied and you file your taxes in the state of Hawaii, you are exempt. You do not have to worry about this, right? This is really just a withholding for people who are out of state. Now let's talk about FIRPTA. That means the Foreign Real Property Tax Act. It's a federal counterpart to HARPTA. It's a tax withholding up to 15% of the gross sales price. So yes, investors are gonna get hit a little harder with the withholding, right? This is not a tax that you're paying. It's just a safekeeping to make sure that you have that fund to set aside for when you go to pay your taxes that year. So biggest thing here, and I have to always preface this, is I am not a CPA, I'm not a tax advisor, I am a real estate agent by trade, I am licensed, and I work with tax professionals, but you cannot take this video as tax advice. I'm just sharing simple information that I've learned from my experience and through my brokerage, and want to share this in an educational content format so that you guys can consume it and then apply it, but always consult a professional CPA for tax advice. Okay, so let's talk about the withholding part, right? So a lot of people get stuck up on this and they think it's a tax they have to pay. This is not true. Again, this is just a withholding. So similar to like myself, I'm a self-employed entrepreneur. I pay income taxes based on the income I earn through my LLC. I get a voucher every month that I have to pay the IRS in anticipation for my annual taxes. That way I'm not hit with a big old check that I have to write in April of the next year. So I'm like giving kind of like prepayments towards my annual tax so that I'm not having to pay this big amount. Same thing goes to this. They are protecting you as a home seller who is not a resident of Hawaii that, hey, you're gonna need to put aside this amount of money for your gains and for your sales price, but it's not gonna be the actual amount. This is just a guesstimate, a rough estimate of the amount, and then it's gonna get refunded to you if it's too much. So we don't have to stress about it too much. But a lot of the times when sellers are selling, they are seeing a net profit sheet and they're thinking they're getting that bottom dollar no matter what. There's no way that that could change, right? So we just had this happen with one of our clients where he was an owner occupant, they relocated to Vegas, and the title company actually ended up withholding his HARPTA amount. And so he went into a panic a little bit. You guys, why is this happening? I thought I was getting XYZ. And we said, whoa. It's just a withholding. That money is not gone. We can get that released back to you. But there is paperwork that needs to be filled out in advance. Ideally, you're getting that CPA's advice from the beginning of the transaction so you know to look forward to it at the end. And then there's no surprises or hiccups. What that means is if you have no gain at all in your Hawaii property, meaning like you only owned it for 6 months or something, like usually we have gains, then you don't have to pay it either. It's literally on the equity that you've gained over time and the appreciation over time that this withholding is for, because that's gonna be your taxes that you're gonna have to pay, right? Does that make sense? Okay, so the last disclaimer is, let's say you do have a massive appreciation. Let's say it's been an investment property and you're a Canadian resident and you're gonna have to pay 15% on your FIRPTA, plus you're gonna have capital gains maybe, and then there might be transient accommodation taxes if it's a short-term rental like an Airbnb or something in Waikiki. It might be possible that you actually owe more tax than what is withheld. And that's where I'm saying I don't wanna be liable, and you absolutely have to talk to a professional to make sure that we're coming into this prepared and educated and there's no big hiccups along the way. So to sum it up, that's the short and simple list. Like I said, there's a lot of ins and outs in this and unique situations. Specifically, 90% of my clients are military, which means you are exempt from HARPTA because you came here with military orders and you're leaving with military orders. So there's no residency confusion. You can keep your home of record as your estate that you're paying taxes in, and you don't have to worry about this Hawaii withholding. But there are forms to fill out, absolutely. It's gonna come up on your closing documents when you go to sign. So make sure you know in advance and definitely consult with myself and a CPA to get that answer for you. Hope that wraps it up, makes it a little bit clearer for you guys, and then you can go into the process educated and informed. I will see you guys next week. That's all for HARPTA and FIRPTA.